Franz, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
First, I want to let viewers know that while you are the general manager of New Mexico PBS, you haven't seen my questions, you didn't have any input into them, and you will not have a hand in editing this interview. In fact, because we want to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest, I'm the one who's doing this interview as a contributor rather than one of the staffers here.
Total agreement with all of that.
So on May 1st, President Trump issued an executive order aimed at ending government funding for PBS and NPR. Together, NPR and PBS get about $535 million per year from the federal government, but there are hundreds of PBS stations, affiliates like KNME across the country. How much does this station get from that pile of $535 million?
New Mexico PBS gets about $1.7 million. Most of that, about 1.65 or thereabouts, is through a community service grant, which is a renewable grant that is issued to public radio and public television stations that pass the certification process every year. There's a couple of smaller grants for supporting distance services, like reaching out to the Navajo Nation and some of the other rural communities, but the bulk of it is through the community service grant.
And what percentage of that is the overall budget?
That right now, this year, it's about 18% of our operating budget.
All right. Trump and others have made many calls to defund public broadcasting over the years, but I admit this is confusing even for me. On the one hand, we hear that federal dollars are only a tiny amount of overall funding for public television and public radio, but then we hear from stations like ours where it's 18%, and that cutting those funds would devastate this station. Which is it?
This station or stations or the system? It's a little bit more complex than that. Losing 18% of any business, of any business's revenue is going to be pretty hard to take. I don't know that it would devastate us, but it would certainly mean a lot of contraction and a lot of change and a lot less service that we're able to provide. The real issue is the smaller stations in most states, particularly western and rural states, where that percentage of their operating budget is quite a bit higher. It's as high as 40% in some cases. In television stations and radio stations, it runs the gamut, but I know there are stations in New Mexico that are existing almost 100%, say 98% on that federal appropriation. And these are communities that do not have the population or the dollars in that population to support public media through just philanthropic individual giving. There's not an opportunity to sell underwriting space, ads if you will, because there's just not enough population to warrant that. So public media's goal is to serve all of these unserved and underserved populations, and the only way to do that is through some means of funding beyond the philanthropic.
But Albuquerque, we're the biggest market in the state,
Sure.
We're the biggest station. This federal funding has been contentious for decades. Why not just say get rid of it and, go out for philanthropic funding, double down on underwriting, keep hustling for money on the TV?
Well, New Mexico PBS is one of the most supported public television stations in the country as it is. I don't know that there's a lot of headroom to go back. Per capita, we receive more dollars from members in New Mexico than just about any other station in the country. So I'm not sure where else we go. Philanthropic through corporate donations, that is nice when it's working, when the economy is good and the message fits. But because of the nature of public television and the restrictions that are placed on us in terms of what is called advertising, we're not allowed to do what other stations, what commercial stations are allowed to do. We're not allowed to use the same language. We're not allowed to use the same visuals. We're much more restricted in how we do it. And that's much less of an incentive for advertisers to use us for advertising. So indeed, most of the corporate donations we get are genuinely philanthropic donations where we are required by law to tell everybody that we're receiving these donations, and the way we do that is through these underwriting spots. If you notice, the language is something like, brought to you in part by viewers like you, and by the way, this company has been supporting public media for 45 years. They're not saying, come on down and buy stuff. They're saying, we support public media. It's a very different message, and it's a philanthropic message, but it's also not a message that is going to lend to a lot of advertising dollars.
Help me understand the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Is this thing that Congress created, and the money kind of flows through, but can you just talk us through how that works?
Certainly. So the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was created by an act of Congress in 1967, out of the 1967 Public Broadcasting Act, and they were created as a private, independent corporation that would receive federal appropriations from Congress, and then they would distribute those funds to PBS, public television and public radio stations around the country. They also act as a firewall so that Congress and the White House and any other arm of the federal government can't insert themselves into the process and basically affect the funding or hold the funding based on things that that particular administration or that particular Congress feels might be important in the moment.
And that's exactly what it appears to be happening now. The White House said on social media that NPR and PBS, quote, receive millions from taxpayers to spread radical woke propaganda disguised as news. So I think it's important to note that we're not sure exactly what's going to happen now because there are some barriers in Trump's way. First, legal experts say the president just doesn't have the authority to undo the budget that Congress made. And second, the Supreme Court has ruled that the government can't make federal funding contingent on stations' editorial decisions. But it's still a very real threat and a very real possibility. I understand that. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting sued Trump last week over his move to fire 3 of the 5 board members, and I think it's fair to assume that there will be lawsuits over this recent move, but it could still happen. So what are you doing now to prepare for the possibility of those cuts?
Well, we're looking at our own operations and seeing where, when the time comes, we might, cut. In our specific case, we have spent years building up reserves so that we have a savings account, if you will, that will backstop us. We have squirreled away money in terms of foundation accounts and taken philanthropic gifts from donors and put them into places that, in some cases, the donor says, I want it used for this specific purpose, like news and journalism or arts programming or things like that. In other cases, they're just saying, hey, we want you to squirrel this money away and keep it for operations. And we've created these interest-bearing accounts that spin off interest but are not completely tied up so that we can spend the capital if we absolutely have to. So we do have some savings in place to keep us whole for the time being. But it's really, again, less about us as an individual station and more about the network. It's okay to be a public television station, but if there's no PBS feeding us programming, if you're not getting Nature and Nova from PBS, that's not something we're going to be able to create by ourselves. So the whole system starts to break down when all the pieces start to disappear. So if New Mexico PBS survives, and I expect that we will at least for a while, that doesn't mean that other stations are going to survive and that we're not going to be beholden to picking up the services that they are now dropping and filling in those gaps and spending more of our time and more of our money on more things with less to work from. So it's really more about the system, honestly, than it is about an individual station.
What would be some of the first ways that viewers would notice these cuts if they came into being?
I think you could, on 2 levels. You could see local programming start to change. You could see local programming drop off. This program could be at risk. Coloris could be at risk. Other programs that we create, documentaries that we produce would slow down or go away. That is at the local level. At the national level, you could see programming start to disappear. One of the things that is actually being affected right now is what's called the Ready to Learn program that came through the Department of Education. $14 million a year from the federal government went directly to PBS through this program. That money has gone away. That means children's programming right now is at risk because dollars have disappeared. So the thing that we are most known for, the reason that we came into being in the first place, children's programming, is starting to disappear. We will see less of it, we will see less new stuff, and we certainly won't see the innovation that public television is famous for in children's programming.
I've noticed in recent days, some changes on the air. I saw PBS President Paula Kerger up there making a plea. I saw a QR code pop up just last night. NPR and PBS have kind of taken different approaches in responding to Trump's, cuts. NPR is asking for donations, and their play is to kind of sock away as much money as possible, while PBS is asking viewers to contact their representatives in Congress. Do you think that's a smart approach?
I do. I think it acknowledges that federal funding is essential and irreplaceable. Again, if you want to assume that Jeff Bezos or some large donor is going to come in and save the day, they may this year. They may not next year. They probably won't the year after. As soon as the business model doesn't support it, that money goes away. I don't think any organization like we are is going to exist purely on philanthropic dollars. It's not going to get us through those tough times. And it is that, any individual, anybody, any smart investor is going to look at a diversified funding base. They're going to look at a diversified portfolio. We receive money. The vast majority of our operating budget comes from individuals, viewers like you. But we also get money from the state of New Mexico. We also get the federal dollars. We also get some corporate philanthropy. And we also do some entrepreneurial stuff where we're providing services that we charge for. So there's a very diverse funding base, and that makes for a very healthy organization. You start taking away those pieces, and you start making the whole system much more brittle.
Franz, thank you so much for talking to us about these proposed cuts.
Thank you very much, Gwyneth.